Honestly, viewers, this is a video that I didn't think I would ever make, but I'm really glad that I'm making it. You see, when Dall-E 2 first hit the scene almost a year ago now, it was seen as complete magic. It's still a pretty decent AI art image generator, and its results can still be absolutely fantastic, and at the time it was mind-blowing, but almost a year here later, Midjourney V4 is absolutely wiping the floor with Dall-E 2's results, and quite honestly, Stable Diffusion's versatility is seen as much higher value than Dall-E 2's limited features and ability to tweak generations. However, Dall-E 2's editor with outpainting and inpainting still is fantastic, and it still can generate really nice images as you can see from these examples. But mostly everyone uses Midjourney now for that added extra creativity. The colors pop more, it's really vibrant and interesting. To be honest, the pricing model in Midjourney V4 is a lot cheaper than Dall-E, and it's a little less egregious. It's like a subscription rather than credits based. However, there's a new Dall-E model in the works. This is very, very exciting. I heard rumors about a new Dall-E model months and months ago. Even Emad, the creator of Stable Diffusion, was tweeting about a new Dall-E 3 model, so somehow he was able to predict that they were working on an upgrade to Dall-E 2. The reason I'm showing you this rather hilarious image is because it actually highlights a lot of what Dall-E 2 originally was missing. The characters were trash in Dall-E 2. So if we go into original Dall-E 2 here and do a very similar prompt to what this is, again, it definitely looks kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's not very coherent at all. The creators of Dall-E, OpenAI, made sure to try to get all of the famous characters out of the database as much as possible. So while this definitely resembles Sonic, it's a little off-brand and weird feeling. This Sonic feels a lot more on par with what you're used to be seeing from the character. And also, you'll notice in comparison to a lot of these generations which look a little bit sloppy, they're not as detailed, this one is very high detail, high resolution. The burgers are very coherent. Sonic's very coherent. He's actually rather chubby and large because he's been eating so many cheeseburgers. And it just looks like a Dall-E 3 rather than a Dall-E 2, to be honest, although people are calling this Dall-E 2.5. Now, if we head over to the Dall-E 2 Instagram, you can see here is a post, the first post that I can find that they made about this new experimental Dall-E 2 model. I'm thrilled to share with everyone some work I've been generating with the @OpenAI Dall-E next generation experimental models. These are still in the testing phase, and OpenAI is using works like this to push and test the model in each and every way before launching worldwide. So we will be seeing this model worldwide confirmed. The goal is to have artists like myself offer early access, feedback, reaction, suggestions, and any concerns, for this experimental model. So yeah, it's on lockdown right now. It's like this very mysterious email that's being pushed out. People actually in my Discord server have been getting access to it so far, which is very exciting. The email looks a little something like this. Hello from the Dall-E 2 team. You were an early contributor and you gave us good feedback on the original Dall-E model. So it seems like if you gave good feedback and useful feedback early on in the Dall-E model, you are granted access to this new experimental model, and you get unlimited credits, and they're only running it for about 10 days while they collect some feedback on it. And yes, the person who did receive this email in my Discord server was the one who created this Sonic image. Anyways, here is our first generation here in the example of the new model. This one I think is a little bit more telling than the Sonic example we first looked at. Again, pay attention, guys, to the amount of detail that you can see in this image. It is very, very detailed, more so than you get with typical Dall-E 2. It looks a lot more realistic. The grain and the texture, I think, looks a lot better on the spacesuit. It still reminisces of the Dall-E model, which is very interesting. It just seems like the Dall-E we all hoped for in the beginning. And then we have up here some text at the top that I think looks more coherent than text and numbers that you would typically see from Dall-E. This looks more like the kind of text that you would see from Midjourney, for example. However, there actually is an AI art model out there known as Deep Floyd that does text and can actually completely write sentences. I did a whole video about it before. You can see here are some results on Twitter from the Deep Floyd IF model that does text to image, and it can actually completely spell. And I've tried this out and I have access to this model, and I gotta say it's pretty awesome. So that's one thing to note here. They don't seem to have Dall-E spelling out sentences or anything like that just yet, and I think that's actually very crucial for the model. But it's getting better than it was, and I think it's on par with Midjourney as far as I could tell in terms of spelling. Definitely quite a lot more detail than we typically get from Dall-E 2, I will say that. Here's a rather terrifying image from this new Dall-E model here. Honestly, reminds me a lot more of Midjourney in some ways, especially with this image here and the details and stuff you can see. But yeah, it's a gross image. It's very coherent though, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. I do want to compare this model to Midjourney. We just need prompted images. So this prompt was Basset Hound Portrait 8K as Roman Tile Mosaic. Pretty good result here from the new Dall-E model. Let's take a look at the Dall-E model we have access to right now. And the current Dall-E model clearly leaves a lot to be desired. These results are really poor, honestly. I don't think any of these really could be considered usable. So yeah, the new model definitely is improving quite a lot on current Dall-E, but that's not a shock. Is it improving on what Midjourney can do right now? I gotta say, guys, this is a little tricky because these Midjourney results for the same exact prompt look pretty darn good, especially this one down in the corner. I think it reminds me a lot actually of that original image. So again, here's the new Dall-E, here's what Dall-E currently generates, and here is what we got out of Midjourney. So I think that this new Dall-E update is sort of putting it almost on par with Midjourney, although I gotta say, Midjourney's looking very creative here, especially with this one. This one's really nice. Here's some more results with the experimental model. Again, doesn't this kind of like actually remind you guys of Midjourney a little bit? I feel like there's a lot more color and detail in these results, and like the way that the shapes are formed, they remind me more of Midjourney. Pretty cool results nonetheless, definitely more detail. I really liked this image that was generated with the new model. Of course, we have a prompt for this one as well, so we're going to be doing a comparison, but yeah, very detailed image here. You can see the texture and the skin of the goldfish is absolutely fantastic. It's a realistic photo, but it's still artistic in some way. The color is really nice, and yeah, the whole thing is just very coherent. I have a feeling that Dall-E is not going to do great with this prompt. So let's see what current Dall-E does. And honestly, I gotta say, current Dall-E did better than I anticipated, but definitely all of these are less detailed, and they're just less coherent in general than the new model. This one looks pretty similar to that original image, but yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a grumpy old fish, but not nearly as detailed or as coherent as this model, which just looks and feels a lot more cleaner. I think you guys can agree. This is like a really blurry image. This one's not so great either, and this is just, bam, like sharp, clean, kind of like Midjourney. Again, Midjourney has like this sharp, clean color aspect to it. It's more of an interesting image, I think, and it's more of a settled image, a more complete image. So I think this new model is really going after what Midjourney V4 can already do. Here are our results from Midjourney V4. I gotta say, Dall-E 2's new model, or the Dall-E 2.5 model, stomped all over Midjourney V4 for this prompt. These images they're bland, they're kind of boring, the fins are sticking out of the goldfish bowl. He doesn't look particularly old, the detail really isn't there, and neither is the camera angle. So again, Dall-E 2 has actually always been pretty good at following prompts. It's always just been like a coherency and resolution problem. So this new model is definitely really capturing this prompt a lot better than I think Midjourney V4 is. I think a lot of what is being shown off with this new experimental Dall-E 2 model is the extra detail that we're getting out of a lot of these. Again, this looks like a nice photoshopped image. This almost looks like I couldn't tell it was generated by AI. And yeah, again, you can see a lot of detail. No way this image would be generated from the original Dall-E model, but I could see it being generated in Midjourney, that's for sure. Maybe not with hands that look this good though. Gotta say, the hand came out pretty good in this result. Something that reminds me a little bit of Midjourney, I think. Wow, these actually all remind me a lot of Midjourney, I have to say. It's very weird though. It's like these really subtle little details. Like you could just tell like the numbers and stuff and the way it's doing lines. It just looks more like a typical Midjourney diffusion model to me than it does the previous Dall-E model, which I guess is a good thing. Here we go. We have another prompt we can try. We actually have multiple results for this one. So let's try this in original, Dall-E, and Midjourney. Hanging Gardens of Babylon as a travel poster from the 1960s. This is pretty good. Nice, sharp, detailed results. I mean, it could be a little bit better in a lot of areas, but I would consider this above average results for AI image generation. Here's what we got from regular Dall-E 2. This is all close enough to the prompt, I say, but there's like a lot of just gross text on there that doesn't actually make any sense at all. I mean, the letters are kind of correct at the end of the day, but it's starting to make up letters, and it's not actually writing the letters correctly, though, and the results look mushy. We'll say that. They look mushy. This one's pretty decent. This is super mushy and gross, and this is pretty mushy as well. Original result, again, looks pretty darn good. Pretty high resolution, better than what we were used to be seeing, and here is what we got from Midjourney. And Midjourney, honestly, is doing a better job, I think, with this prompt. Midjourney V4, I think, is beating the new Dall-E 2 model in this one, at least. This looks more like a poster. I actually think it's following the prompt better with the new Midjourney model, because, yes, it's still putting these ugly, not spelled correctly words in here, but the Babylon Gardens look better. They look more like a 1960s poster, and they just fit better as a coherent poster image, I think. I just think Midjourney's following the prompt better. For sure. This is a different kind of test. This is thought bubble, pop art, comic book art. So it's really, they're after a coherent image here. The background on this honestly isn't that great, and it's not super coherent, but this is a tough test for AI art generators to pull off. Those perfect dots in the background seamlessly blending together and all of that. That's not easy to resolve as a AI art image diffusion model. Let's see what the original Dall-E model thinks of this. And honestly, this is not super impressive. Looking back at the original one, the old Dall-E model barely did worse than it. And, these aren't too bad, I suppose, but they're not really great either. And you can see it's just super hard to resolve that stuff in the background there. And the new model's not really doing it that much better, in my opinion. And this is what we got out of Midjourney. I don't really like these results at all. They're adding extra things in that we didn't want in. There's actually people in this result this time around. And while the thought bubbles actually can end up pretty coherent, it's not just the thought bubble. We're getting extra stuff in. We're getting words in there. We're getting bubbles just bubbling around and a woman's face. And they look like cool images, but it's not as versatile as you get with this Dall-E 2 result. It's not as usable as an actual image. So yeah, honestly, don't like the Midjourney result at all. This image honestly doesn't look super impressive to me, but it's simply a woman studying at a desk next to a window overlooking a busy city below, headphones on, pencil in hand, style of anime. Looks better than what I would guess typical Dall-E produces, but let's see what typical Dall-E gets us, and we'll try this with Midjourney. I have a feeling Midjourney's gonna stomp all over with this one, to be honest. So yeah, again, here is the result from the new Dall-E image model, and here's what we get from current Dall-E. I'm not gonna lie, these are atrocious. I don't think I like any of these images. You can see it's trying its best, but it just looks like this weird, gross collage. I don't like it at all. Like, this is just horrific. So yeah, there's actually a huge improvement with this image in comparison to the old one. Midjourney did all black and white imagery for some reason. I'm not sure where it picked that up, because we didn't really ask for black and white image, but these are all pretty good generations, I would say. Actually pretty close to the original Dall-E 2 experimental model generation in terms of, I think, coherency and all of that. But yeah, completely black and white for some reason. Some more just alpha testing results from this new model. These are non-existent creatures. They look like they could be real creatures, I will say that. Dall-E 2 has always been pretty good at its photorealistic results. It all depended really on what you were trying to generate, but these look very, very realistic. They almost look like real photos. If you showed me this and said, oh, this is some deep sea creature, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. That seems legit. These actually look really, really good. Very, very photorealistic. Ooh, this one's lots of detail on there. It almost reminds me of Midjourney with the colors and stuff. It's really how I feel about this model. It reminds me a lot of Midjourney, and it's like the Midjourney V4 and Dall-E 2 had a baby. Here is another result. This result's actually pretty impressive, I think. This is field full of flowers, grass, wind blowing, blue sky, thick brush strokes, neo-impressionism. So you can actually really see those thick brush strokes in this image. It looks like someone took a picture of a high detail art painting or something like that. The original Dall-E model just kind of makes this mushy mess. You can see there is kind of some detail in there. It definitely looks like a painting, but it's really broad. It's not that detailed at all. And you definitely don't really see those thick brush strokes like you do with this result, which is just way more coherent, I think. This result's quite a bit better and captures a lot more of the prompt, I think, than this original Dall-E model. Is Midjourney going to capture these insane brush strokes? The answer is kind of yeah. Actually, Midjourney did a really good job here, I think. You know, definitely see all the flowers, the grass blowing, the whole prompt really is here, and you are starting to see some of these brush strokes. Again, I haven't upscaled any of these results, but I think you can see more of the brush strokes than you do in the original Dall-E 2 model, and it's a little bit more coherent too. Especially this result. This result is really nice, and so is the first one. So again, I think this is almost on par with this model. I think this is a little bit better though. I really think you can see those brush strokes in there, and I think it's a better result. This looks so much like a real painting. It really, really does. And here are some more insane results. Very reminiscent of Midjourney. I keep saying that. Just the color and the detail and the way things generate is reminiscent of Midjourney in some ways. Like, especially these types of images. This is what you expect to see when you're looking at Midjourney stuff. People seem to be pretty impressed with this new model. Here is clearly a DeLorean image. Not the most coherent thing in the world, I will say. This image needs quite a lot of work, but I really like the sun rays, at least in this one. This image is pretty darn good as well. And you can see a lot of the color and everything in these results. This is such a Midjourney image. It's a weird thing to say, but like really, it does remind me a lot of Midjourney. Some more results here. This is actually a fantastic result. I'm glad I went on Twitter to look for some stuff to show you guys, because man, there's actually some really cool stuff. Look at the UFO image. This is really, really cool. Again, I wouldn't put this past Midjourney though. I really think Midjourney could do this. Maybe not this one though. This one's pretty surprising. This is interesting because we actually got text. Full text spelled out. So look at that. It might actually be able to do text every once in a while. Clearly not coherently and efficiently like, let's say, Deep Floyd IF, but it might actually be able to do some text. Again, this is just experimental stuff, so this is where we're at right now. Things could get much better. We don't know. But yeah, definitely more detail in these results. There's definitely a coherency bump for sure. Not past Midjourney, in my opinion, in a lot of the results. It seems like Midjourney and this go head-to-head more often, whereas the original Dall-E 2 is just clearly worse than Midjourney V4. They got some Space Girl results in here, which look pretty good. The eyes and the faces still need some work, though. Like, this nose is pretty screwed up, but the rest of it looks really, really cool. These prompts are very well done. Oh, these are some really, really cool generations. But yeah, this is pretty good results. This is a lot closer to what we're used to nowadays. Here is the default Dall-E 2 results, and here are the new ones. Definitely a lot more color and detail and creativity tossed in there. They're taking notes out of the Midjourney book for sure. Beautiful images. Really, really like these. It's cool stuff. Really, really awesome stuff. Love to see it. I've messed around with this style prompt before, but it's just really cool to show all the different pieces and stuff around it. And apparently, it's also confirmed there's no extra resolutions or aspect ratios or anything like that. It's just a new model. There are no added features. Some people really aren't that impressed, though, with the new model. This is all just a bunch of generated pizzas from it. And yeah, these do look like pretty generic Dall-E 2 results. Rather unexpected, the new Dall-E model is a little bit more into gore and blood than the previous one. They might try to remove this though, because, you know, they're testing things out. But yeah, you can see this one's a little bit more rabid. It's willing to generate some of the stuff that, you know, you weren't allowed to generate at all in the previous Dall-E model. And that's one of the things that really held the original Dall-E 2 model back, is you weren't allowed to generate any gore. You weren't allowed to generate very suggestive things, let's say, whereas you have a lot more freedom with Midjourney or Stable Diffusion. And I mean, that is a horrific, disgusting, gory image, but it's nice to see that they're actually allowing it to do stuff like that, because it does it very, very well. These are good images, I think. And maybe they're learning that it's okay to have a little bit of fun every once in a while in terms of the blood and the creepy stuff, the PG-13. I think Midjourney's pretty good in terms of their safety system. I think their safety system is the way to go. Although a lot of people seem to think this is going to be a huge leap for Dall-E 2. I mean, it's still in the experimental phases, so you expect it to get better. This is clearly better than original Dall-E was, I think. It's still a little less coherent, though, in some areas. Like, man, what is going on here? But it's a pretty cool model. Here we go. Some more actual copyrighted properties here. This is more of like a Spider-Girl thing in comparison to the first one, which wouldn't let you generate any, copyrighted properties at all. This new model seems to be allowing you to get away with it. I don't know, guys. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. Is this not really a leap at all for Dall-E 2? Is this, just bringing it up to Midjourney standards? Is it better than Midjourney? Again, they're actually going to be updating this in the future. It's going to be better, apparently, when they fully release it. So this could beat Midjourney V4 out, but of course, Midjourney's working on a V5 model. I don't know, guys. It's really hard to tell. It looks like it's a more free-formed model. It's going to be better, which is good. It might actually bring us to start using Dall-E 2 again. We kind of all stopped using Dall-E 2, to be honest. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Should they leave the actual copyrighted properties stuff in there? Should they leave the gore in there and the blood? I think that if they just kind of stick to what Midjourney's path has been so far, it's been working out pretty good. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out some of my other videos. Let's chat about this on my Discord server. And again, where I originally heard about this news was on my Discord server. That's where I get a lot of my AI news from, is the community viewers like you in my Discord. So check it out. I'll see you guys next time, and goodbye.